So show watchers will remember Joan from season 3. She is Marcelly's younger sister and the youngest child of Leary and Simon McKimmie. In episode 9 of season 7, we are reintroduced to Joan when she confronts Jamie about getting access to her dowry so that she can join the nunnery, which is something that Leary does not want her to do. The reason she needs Jamie is because the current contract that he has in place with Leary requires that she not remarry, because if she were to remarry, then he no longer has to send her any alimony of some sort for Joan's upkeeping. If she wants to join the nunnery, though, she cannot do that if her mother is living with a man she is not married to. Therein lies the predicament she finds herself in. Joan always had a very soft spot in Jamie's heart, and vice versa. They loved each other dearly. I think she was very upset and heartbroken when Jamie left them, but they share this common love of their faith. Some background on Joan. Her father died in prison, so she did not have a very good relationship with him and didn't really know him. She was born in 1753. She was quite young when he passed away, so Jamie really was her only father figure. And in episode 9, we hear Jamie say that he, in part, doesn't blame Joan for wanting to join the nunnery because she did not have the best example of what a marriage would look like. In the books, it's implied that Joan has some sort of like foresight. She's been able to see the deaths of people before they happen. It's almost a coincidence, but she hears voices in her head, and the voices are also what encourage her to join the nunnery in the first place. In the books, we see her in Voyager when Jenny asks Leary and her 2 daughters to come to Lally Rock so that Jamie can see them, and at that time he's still in such a fragile state that he kind of shoos them away. That's the first time we see Joan. And now in An Echo in the Bone, which is where the current season is pulling a lot of source material from, she is originally trying to achieve her goal of joining the nunnery directly with Leary, who would rather her marry someone locally and live the similar sort of life that Leary mapped out for herself. But instead, she really wants to go to Paris. And that dowry being given to her changes the whole trajectory of her life and leads to her novella, which is called The Space Between. Claire offers to escort Joan to Paris to bring her under the wing of Mother Hildegard, which you would remember from season 2 of Outlander, who Claire spent time with. Joan agrees, but because Claire gets taken away back to America, Joan has to be escorted by Michael Murray instead. Michael, you will remember, is young Ian's brother who has business in France. So he offers to bring Joan to France with him instead of Claire. You'll also remember that Michael is recently widowed. Keep that in mind as we go through the events of The Space Between. So Joan's ultimate goal of joining the nunnery is to quiet the voices in her head and also figure out what to do with her gift of foresight. She doesn't know how to control it, and it's becoming overwhelming to her. So when she gets to Paris, she's absolutely blown away by just how different life there is. And even as she settles into this new life, she still has struggles with the voices in her head. They don't go away like she had hoped to have them kind of quiet as she went through the process of becoming a nun. That isn't how it works out. And then this is when things get interesting. Shortly after her arrival, she is kidnapped by the Comte Saint-Germain, who you will remember from season 2, because he believes that she is Claire's daughter. He takes her underground to see if she can hear the stones, and unfortunately for him, but fortunately for Joan, she cannot hear anything, so she is not a time traveler. While she's there, Master Raymond shows up and confirms that she is not a time traveler. She is not one of them. And so Joan is trapped here, and Michael ends up coming to her rescue to save her. But while they are there, they witness the Comte Saint-Germain and Master Raymond go through the stones and travel back in time. So the two of them witness this absolutely incredible moment together and are in complete disbelief. The whole story, there's this implied romance between her and Michael. They have a very clear attraction towards one another, but she ultimately prioritizes her life joining the nunnery over a life with Michael. And it's just a very heartbreaking story for both of them, because you can tell how much they truly love and respect one another. And they end up parting ways, leaving with a kiss. But the story's very fun to read. And I think Joan's personality is very unique to the world of Outlander. She's just a very sweet person. And reading about her world and like the world through her eyes was really enjoyable for me. It was one of my favorite novellas. If you ever have the opportunity to read some of the novellas, I highly recommend it, especially given where we are in the show. A lot of the novellas for the Lord John storyline are going to become not pivotal in your understanding of what's going on, but they will help. They will definitely help. Joan's story is cool because it brings back characters from season 2 that we haven't seen in a while, namely the Comte Saint-Germain and Master Raymond, and being thrown back into that environment in France, this time with Joan and Michael, was very fun to read as a fan of season 2 and of that book. So I would give it a read. Joan, I hope we see more of this season. It would be fun for me if they kind of sprinkled in bits of her novella into the show. I hope this isn't her one and only appearance, but if it is, now you know what happens with Joan. And like I said, highly recommend reading the novella.